Shepard was asking for it for three.
Well, he felt it, didn't he? He was begging.
Oh, what a play by Matt Mitchell.
To Watson, sees a lane, takes it underneath. Montana three.
This is a clinic. This is Aztec basketball.
Aztec Nation, what is up? This is the Aztec Breakdown Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Tron. And as we've been doing, we're just going to dive right into it. I mean, I guess, follow me if you're on Blue Sky, if you're on YouTube. I'm trying to put up all the games this season up on YouTube so you can rewatch them at your leisure. So that's a big one. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever. I don't know. We're just gonna get into the fun stuff. The Aztecs defeated UNLV in Vegas. Big win for the Aztecs, if only because it helps maintain sole possession of first place, at least for the moment. Aztecs defeated UNLV 82-71. So it wasn't terribly close. Both teams definitely got runs in. Um, there were times watching the game where I was stressed, I'm not gonna lie. But the Aztecs came out on top. Uh, and it was a good game overall. Got to start with Miles Bird's big day. He had a huge game. Very much looked like the guy that we kind of thought he would be coming into the season. I'm not expecting this to be the normal. Obviously, like his thing, his whole career has been like his struggles, his whole career have been with consistency. And so he'll have more games where, especially shooting wise, where the ball isn't going in the bucket. And that's okay. But Miles Bird had 23 points on 8 shots. Uh, you go through you need to have at least 1 point per shot is what I'm always saying, and he had almost 3 points per shot. 2 for 3 inside the arc, 5 for 5 beyond the arc, and his shooting percentage from three on the season shot up to 35%, which isn't elite, but is good enough. That's a guy that you want taking those threes. Uh, I mean, it's just he's streaky, right? It is what it is. But hyper efficient scoring performance. Also made another 4 free throws, 4 for 4 from the line. He's been killing it at the line lately. I think he's missed 2 of his last 20 or something like that. Uh, Also added in 5 assists and 4 steals. Didn't do as much rebounding this game. Only had one rebound, and that's something I've been praising him for, has been getting the rebounds. But when you score 23 points and have 5 assists, and 4 steals to boot, that's probably okay. Like if if you could choose for a player to hit 5 threes, it doesn't even have to be on 5 shots. Say it's on like maybe even on 10 shots, honestly. But like you get 5 threes or 5 defensive rebounds, which one are you going to take? It's probably going to be the 5 threes, right? So we're totally fine with that. Miles Bird needs a lot of props for that performance. Um, I mean, I let these people get me too riled up, but like the two people that I had seen that were like talking about how much Bird sucks had nothing to say about his performance. So that was nice because that's the thing, right? I was talking to one guy on Blue Sky, and we were talking like there are absolutely things that Bird does that are worthy of you can call it criticism, but just like pointing out, like, yeah, like it's a bummer when these things happen. It's frustrating when these things happen, right? The sloppy turnovers, the deep threes, any number of things. My point the whole time is just that he's a good player, a great player even, uh, and it's worth it to have him on the team, right? And so it props to Bird. He had a great performance, led the team to victory with a scoring, got close to a career high. His career high in scoring is 25 points. I think that was against Colorado State. Um, Too early to segue to that, but just a great performance from Bird. Reese Dixon Waters had a solid performance, 13 points on 11 shots. Does beat that 1-to-1 ratio, so there is that. Did score his 1,000th point as a college basketball player, not with San Diego State, just in college in general. And so, congrats to him on that. He also continued his rebounding dominance, had 7 rebounds in total, 6 of them defensive. Been very much loving the rebounding output from the wings and the guards lately. Uh, it's really helped the team out in conference play, especially in the last stretch in conference play, whatever you want to call it. Also, want to give a shout out to Miles Heidi, who for I think just the second time this season got intentionally fouled. Uh, this situation was a little bit different because UNLV was down, so it made more sense for them to intentionally foul and hope that Heidi misses at least one, if not both. I can't remember if it was a 1-on-1 situation at that point or not. But Heidi, for the second time this season, after getting intentionally fouled, goes 2 for 2 from the line. Finished the game 3 for 4 from the line, actually. So, I mean, by his standards, fantastic performance at the free throw line. His season free throw shooting percentage is now 46%, which is still bad. There isn't a great way to sugarcoat that. Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's good, but he is now, when people have sought him out to try and get him to shoot free throws, he's answered both times. I don't think it'll stop. I don't think they're going to stop doing that. Uh, but he's answered it, and he deserves props for that, right? It's always a good day when you beat UNLV, and hopefully that's coming through here in my tone and the things I'm talking about. He also actually, I'm going to get sidetracked here for a minute. That play he had, it was in it must have been the first half, and I don't remember who threw the ball ahead to him, but they throw the ball ahead. Miles Heidi catches it in the air. He jumps up in the air and catches it in the painted area. But before he even lands, I think he whips it out to the corner. He like turns and whips it out to the corner to, I'm pretty sure it was Miles Bird, and and Bird then hits the three. And I was like, wow, that was such a fast decision. You don't usually expect big men in the mold of a Miles Heidi to make those types of decisions and make those types of passes. And he did it, and it was a huge play. And so Heidi, like, his numbers don't stand out a whole lot, right? 9 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, no blocks, no steals, nothing like that. So, like, not a super loud game, not a super flashy game. Uh, but that one pass was really, really fun to watch. I think as a team, I laid out a couple keys before the UNLV game, and one of the big ones was free throws. UNLV draws a lot of contact when they play basketball. They like to live at the line, and they drew a good amount of contact. Don't get me wrong, but the Aztecs shot more free throws than them. The Aztecs shot 26 to UNLV's 22, and on top of that, the Aztecs have been killing it from the line when they've gone up. Right, I'm not saying they go to the line like at a greater rate than most other teams or anything. It's in the range of average, but when they've been capitalizing lately. They shot 85% from the line against UNLV, right? UNLV got to the line, still a solid amount, but only went 12 of 22, 55%. Not not gonna get it done. Uh Aztecs 22 of 26. Great performance there, and it's such a bummer thinking back to the Grand Canyon game because ultimately in the Grand Canyon game, the Aztecs are really well on their free throws there too. They shot 16 of 19, 84% from the line. That's a good number. And it was just a bummer that the one miss happened when it did, ultimately. There were 3 misses, but you guys know what I'm saying. That the miss that happened when it did. I do think, looking at the UNLV game, the Aztecs, I mean, this is probably going to be somewhat of a season-long thing. They can still be turnover prone at times. They had 13 turnovers against UNLV, which isn't like a super amount, but it is more than you want. Uh, they did force 13 turnovers for UNLV. And so think against most opponents, if you can do that, if you can stay even in turnovers, the Aztecs will probably be fine. Uh, there are obviously some teams where that won't be the case, and on any given day, anything can happen. I think like a Utah State, the Aztecs will need to force more turnovers. New Mexico, I think, has shown that honestly, that the Aztecs need to force more turnovers when they play New Mexico than they commit. Uh, but for most of the games left in the season, if you can be even on the turnovers, Aztecs should be in a pretty good spot because their offense has been better overall. Like the chances when they don't turn it over, they tend to score better than they have in past years. The defense has also been coming along overall, and that's despite missing Magoon Guath for the last couple games. And so I think that's a fine thing, right? Like you want the turnovers to go down, and they do have stretches where they don't have a lot of turnovers. And so hopefully they can continue to improve it, but it might just be a problem that lasts all season long. That being said, I kind of thought that would be the case with the defensive rebounding too. And instead, the Aztecs are one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the conference during conference play. Boise State jumped them just barely. So now the Aztecs, going into the UNLV game, the Aztecs were the best defensive rebounding team in the conference. Boise State has jumped ahead, so now the Aztecs are number two. But still, when you look at the numbers, their rebounding has been much better. And so there's a lot of things to be positive about. It's not perfect. It's not all roses and daisies. Um, Bird is going to continue to be inconsistent. I have no clue what's going on with Magoon Guath. Hopefully, it's mostly just, a relatively minor thing flared up, and they're trying to rest it and rehab it and do whatever they have to do. I know his hip has been bothering him, is what Coach Dutcher has been saying. Hopefully, it's all it is, and hopefully, it's not affecting his mentality too much. We've seen a couple times where he seems to do things that are maybe a little uncharacteristic. Coach Dutcher talks about frustration being the worst enemy of a player. That might be happening with Guath a little bit because he expects more out of himself, presumably. Uh, Hopefully, he can come back and make an impact here in the second half of conference play at least, and kind of build up towards the conference tournament because this team, as good as they've been playing, ultimately they're going to be better with him playing well than they will without him at all. Um, that's probably a really obvious thing to say, but it's still true, right? Like the team will be better with Goon, provided that he's at least a certain threshold of healthy, and so hopefully he can come back and do that. The depth at the forward position these past couple games has been tricky. Early in the season, I thought Jeremiah Odin was playing, if not like great, if not even good, but at the very least like much better than I thought he would. And the past couple games, it hasn't looked great. I mean, the UNLV game was better, but just because he didn't do anything that was like super boneheaded, I guess. Um, I mean, he's never been a guy that's gonna like do some of the things that UNLV was doing, where they're like body checking people. Body check is a strong word, but like bumping into people at times where they don't need to, right? Those silly fouls that UNLV got. Jeremiah Odin isn't a guy that's going to do stuff like that, but just sometimes taking bad shots or making bad decisions, not being where he's supposed to be defensively, things of that nature. The last two games especially haven't been great. The UNLV game didn't have any like terrible things, but he just didn't seem that impactful either way. Like he might not have been hurting the team, but he didn't seem like he was helping the team very much. And that's the backup player, right? And then that leaves you with Tay Simmons as kind of your power forward, unless you're going to go small, which the Aztecs have been doing, and it's for the most part been working for them. That might continue. against Colorado State, especially if Goon is out. They might keep playing, Miles Bird as a power forward. We'll just see how it goes, but it's been a bummer. And that was something that I pointed out even before the season started. Like if Goon has issues coming back from injury, that leaves you with Jeremiah Odin, who before the season I was much more down on, honestly. And it leaves you with the freshman Tay Simmons, and that's it, unless you go small. And in all fairness, going small has worked out better than I thought it would, but I still don't think it's the like best long-term solution. The best one is just having Goon back. Uh, it's exacerbated because Pharaoh Compton, as good as he is in spurts, he's so foul prone. You don't always know what you're going to get from him. And then Heidi, solid player, absolutely. A lot of people have been down on Heidi, and I don't think that is justified. Uh, he hasn't been like elite or whatever, but he just kind of goes in and does his job for the most part. Has his flaws, but has his upsides as well. But that leaves Heidi sometimes, if Compton's in foul trouble, right, that leaves Heidi playing a lot of center minutes, but that means if Compton's in foul trouble, Simmons is also the backup center. And so you're asking a lot of your freshman who has been solid, absolutely, and has had a couple really big games and really big moments. Didn't flash a lot at UNLV. I thought it was a little more quiet against UNLV. 4 points on 2 shots, 3 rebounds, right? So nothing crazy, nothing bad, but nothing crazy. But just the depth in the big positions has really been hurting between Odin being not great, between Compton being in foul trouble, and between Goon being of the rotation with an injury. Been been a real bummer. So hopefully he can come back quick and continue to make the team better. Ultimately, I think it's enough. That's enough on Magungwath. I don't. I Yeah. We'll move on here. Want to talk about the tournament projections here for a minute. There's still 11 games left in the conference season, so there's lots of time for these things to change. But currently, the Aztecs are 47th in the net. They're 45th in Ken Palm. So they are right there on the bubble in terms of their metrics. In terms of just those metrics, they're probably just outside of the field. Still in the bubble, right? The bubble's kind of are you or are you not? But they're probably just outside of the field based on those metrics. Uh, Still got some work to do before you can feel safe and feel confident about how that is gonna go. I will say, my favorite resource ultimately for seeing what teams are in and what teams aren't is a website called Bracket Matrix. I don't remember if it's .com or .org, but if you type in Bracket Matrix on your search browser, you should be able to find it. They take brackets from a bunch of different websites and bracketologists and everything and kind of average everything out. And they also rate who the best bracketologists are any given year, as well as, over the past 3 years, over the past 5 years, stuff like that. And they rank it based off of how many teams did you correctly put in the field out of the 68, and how many did you get on the right seed line or within one seed lines or within two seed lines. Uh, and when you look at that, you see that most bracketologists get like 67 of the 68 teams correct. A lot of them get all 68 correct, but the vast majority, like there's a couple each year that maybe only get 66 of them correct, right? So getting the teams in the field is relatively easy. I say that like I don't know that I could do it. I would have to sit down and really figure stuff out. Uh, but most people, like if they're posting things on the internet and they've taken the time, they'll get 66 or 67 of the teams right at a minimum. Getting them on the right seed line is the much trickier part, but like knowing who's going to be in is usually a little bit easier. And I bring that all up to say that when you look at Bracket Matrix right now, the Aztecs are the last team in the field. And oddly enough, the team right in front of them is New Mexico. And so Mountain West with a couple teams right there on the bubble. It is there is one tricky factor related to this at this point in time where if you go and look up the individual brackets that are mentioned, some of them might have the Aztecs in only because the Aztecs are in first place in their conference. And there's no way to know unless you talked to the individual making the bracket. There's no way to know if the Aztecs would be in if they weren't in first place in the Mountain West, right? Like, do they think the at-large resume is good enough, or is it just kind of built into their system that at this point in time, if a team is first place in their conference, like they're assuming that team gets the auto bid? I wouldn't think that's the best methodology, honestly, but so like some people do that, and it's not a terrible one, especially it's still early enough that it's fine to do that. But if the Aztecs were to lose to, say, Colorado State or Utah State, even at that point, Utah State in theory would have the tiebreaker, and I don't know, like it's possible the Aztecs drop down on the bracket matrix specifically because they're no longer in first place. That could be a thing, and unless you go and check like all the individual brackets, there isn't a great way to know the answer to that question. It's not something I care about enough to go look at. I think it's just important to point out that the Aztecs are firmly on the bubble. They're right there on the edge. My guess, my non-bracketologist brain guess would be that if the selection happened today, the Aztecs wouldn't be in. They have, they have the Troy loss, and that really weighs you down. And their best win was at Nevada, which is a quad one win, so that's great. But there's just not a lot there to make up for the Troy loss. They are doing good in quad two. They're 4-1 in quad two with their win over New Mexico at home, over Boise State at home, over UNLV on the road, and over Wyoming on the road. Those are the four quad one, or sorry, quad two wins. The quad two loss is actually against Baylor. Baylor dropped out of quad one range. Oregon is currently in quad three range. I'm recording this on Sunday. Oregon is playing Washington today. If they win, they might jump into quad two territory. That would be huge for the Aztecs. We got to be rooting for Oregon there. Uh, Grand Canyon is currently a quad one loss. Honestly, they are 74th in the net. If they drop below 75, that drops down to a quad two loss, which also doesn't help the Aztecs ultimately, but wouldn't be killer either. If so, that is what that is. Uh, I guess long term, the big thing is just the Aztecs need to keep winning games. They're 8-1 in conference. Hopefully they can finish this stretch being 9-1, and then we can reevaluate at that point. But in addition to that, hopefully Nevada wins enough. That win stays a quad one win. Hopefully, I mean, I wouldn't expect UNLV to be this road game at UNLV to be a quad two win by the end of the season, but maybe it could. Like that would be nice. It'd be nice if Grand Canyon stayed a quad one loss. I don't know that I expect it to be though. I think Oregon winning would be one of the better and more likely good things that could happen, but I don't have a lot of faith in it either. They need to be a top 100 team in the net for that to be a quad two victory for the Aztecs, and they're currently 103rd, so they're right on the edge there. They can get a little bit more. That'll be helpful. But ultimately, if the Aztecs just continue to win, they should be in pretty good shape. They have four, as of me recording this right now, they have four remaining quad one games, three quad two games, three quad three games, and one quad four game. And that quad four game is just on the road against Air Force. I don't think they can afford to lose any quad four or quad three games. And so at this point in time, that's home against Colorado State, which is coming up next. We'll talk about that in a minute. home against Wyoming, the road against Air Force, and the season finale home against UNLV. They can't lose any of those games, and that leaves seven other games in addition to those four, and they need to win at least four of those seven, probably. I would think, ideally more, obviously, but at least four of those seven. Like if they take another three quad two games and one of the quad one games, maybe Utah State at home, maybe Utah State on the road, whatever the case might be, uh, that would put them in a decent position, I would think. I still might be a little sweaty going into Selection Sunday, but that would be okay. Moving on from that, though. I just said this Colorado State game might be must win in the sense of getting into the tournament. I'm not gonna lie, a part of me I think might be more interested in winning the conference than getting into the tournament. But that's probably also partially because it seems like if you win the Mountain West, like despite the Mountain West not getting another four bids this year, that seems highly unlikely. But despite that, the Mountain West is a good enough conference that if you win it in the regular season, you should, I would think, get into the tournament. And so it helps reach one goal if the other one is accomplished. And there's also just something romantic in my brain about this is the last year of the Mountain West for San Diego State as one of the original founding members of it. And it would be so nice to win another championship, if not both. Like win the conference championship too, ideally, and then you don't have to worry about it on Selection Sunday. But like it'd be so nice to win another one or two on the way out. And it would also, as a side note, this will be fun regardless, but it'll be more fun if the Aztecs can add another one or two. It'll be fun to see how long it takes another school to catch up to the amount of basketball titles that San Diego State has won over the years, because they have like I think almost twice as many as the next team, which is New Mexico, and New Mexico's in a position to be like a very good school in the Mountain West Conference in the coming years here. So that's just a little side note, but this game against Colorado State is going to be a big one for both of those reasons. Ultimately, it's going to be a big one for your conference standings because you want to win. Like this Utah State game that's after the Colorado State game is going to be tough on the road. They're a good team. They're on the road. It's hard to win there. And so you want to go into that game with only one loss. That way, if you do happen to lose, like you've had that little bit of cushion and you're just kind of tied. And they would have the tiebreaker, but you can maybe get that back at home type thing. And so like it's maybe not technically must win in that sense because like mathematically it wouldn't be must win, but it very much feels like a must win for the purposes of the conference title, and maybe even more so must win in terms of your resume. Uh, because having two quad three losses is going to be killer, and there just isn't really a way for the Aztecs to get enough good wins to make up for that. Like last year, the win at Creighton was big, and the win at Houston, or not at Houston, but or at Creighton, but on the neutral floor. But the win against Creighton was big, and the win against Houston was huge. That I think win that one I think carried them into the tournament, and they were still one of the last teams in, and that was able to make up for their multiple quad three losses last year. This year they don't have that win, right? The Oregon win isn't going to cut it. They didn't beat Baylor, and Baylor's a quad two right now, anyways. They didn't beat Arizona. They didn't beat Michigan, and so they don't have that big win. So you really need to beat Colorado State at home here, and Colorado State won't be an easy game because they are better than what their record indicates, especially in their conference record. They're better than what their conference record indicates. And I guess I'll backtrack a little bit and I'll say there's a chance it's not a must win because Colorado State can possibly win enough here in conference to get their metrics up that this would be a quad two game at home. I'm gonna try and double check this real quick, but like that's not outside of the range of possibility. They're 94th in the net. They would need to be top 75 to be quad two at home. So it's possible. I don't know if I would say it's likely, but it's possible they can win a lot of games and get up into that range. Hopefully, we don't have to worry about it, but I'll walk back that must win a tiny bit while still saying overall it's probably a must win game. When you look at their conference record, it's not great, but they have had a couple big injuries, even like that are even more impactful, I would argue, than the ones the Aztecs have been having because the Aztecs have so much depth, uh, and have just been able to absorb it better. And the biggest one has just been Goon. Like some other players have been injured and they've been able to play through it, right? But for Colorado State, they've had a couple big ones. And so they had Rashawn Mbemba was hurt for large chunks of early in the season as well as into conference play. Uh, he's been basically starting ever since he came back and has been healthy. He's been with Colorado State for a while. He's 6'7", 250 pounds. He plays like a center role for them. He's one of the few players on the team that can't really shoot threes. So you don't have to worry about that, but he's just a big dude, rebounds the ball well, finishes inside well, uh, draws a lot of contact, stuff like that. And so they missed him, and then the bigger miss was Kyle Jorgensen. Kyle Jorgensen, they missed him for looks like 5 games. He was starting before that, and he's mostly been starting since then. He's another big man, 6'9", but shoots the nets off the rims, honestly. In all the games he's played this year, he is shooting 53.5% from deep, eighth best in the nation. And in conference play, which he's missed some of, right? He's missed a number of games, so it's a smaller sample size, but he's shot 58.3% from deep. Uh, this dude is a flamethrower in terms of shooting the ball, and Colorado State knows how to get him the ball. That is, it's going to be a problem. Colorado State's ability to shoot in general. Their shooting percentage in conference play has gone down, but I'm betting a good amount of that is because Kyle Jorgensen was missing. In conference play, the Rams are shooting 36.7% from behind the arc, which is good. That's a good number. It's maybe not the most elite, but it's a good number. Like that's enough to be a little bit scary. On the season, they're shooting 41.5% from deep, which is number one in the nation, the best three-point shooting team in the nation. And they're also great, like they finish inside the arc too, right? Like they're able to use all that spacing. Uh, their coach Farouk Manesh has taken just a bunch of the principles that Medved had. I'm sure he's altered them and changed them, but a lot of the same types of concepts. These guys they play incredibly slow. They have the slowest tempo in the nation, and they just work and work and work and get back cuts and get open shooters, and it leads to them finishing at an incredibly high rate. Uh, and so they score the ball incredibly well. And that's going to be a problem for the Aztecs, especially if the last 2 games are any indication. UNLV, their shots cooled off towards the end, but they had moments where they were looking hot from three too. They finished only 33%, but they were looking hot, and Grand Canyon was on fire from three. And Grand Canyon was, I think, at the time, the worst three-point shooting team in the conference and among the worst teams in the nation, right? If the averages were to hold, given 100 shots, Colorado State would make 11 more threes than Grand Canyon, which would be good for 33 points. Uh, there's obviously not 100 shots in a game, but it's concerning. Anytime a team shoots that good, they can beat anybody, right? And that's what Colorado State has been able to do. So it's concerning. There is like obviously Colorado State isn't the best team ever, right? They're 90th in Ken Palm. They're an above average team, but they're not perfect by any means. They've lost some games. I just realized this. I'm looking at this right now. They lost to Denver. It was ranked 267th in Ken Palm. It was a close game, but still. Uh, and they happened at home. Wow, I had totally forgotten all about that. So they aren't unbeatable, right? It's just concerning given the last two games the Aztecs played and given Colorado State's propensity to take a lot of threes and make a lot of threes. That's always a concern. Some of the bright sides are one, Colorado State does turn the ball over quite a bit, even more so than the Aztecs. And so turnovers can be an equalizer for the Aztecs if Colorado State is shooting the ball. Well, it was against Grand Canyon, right? And the Aztecs lost that one, but the turnovers were an equalizer there, and they were an equalizer even more so against like New Mexico, where the Aztecs won because they forced a lot of turnovers, right? So the Aztecs can take care of the ball and force a lot of turnovers against a team that like gives the ball up a lot and also on the flip side doesn't force a lot of turnovers themselves. They're one of the worst teams at forcing turnovers, the Rams are. Then that can be an equalizer for the Aztecs. And so hopefully between Bird, between Davis, and between the other guys as well, those are kind of like the two highlighters in terms of steals. But if the team in general can force a lot of turnovers, that can be an equalizer for that 3-point shot. In addition to that, the Rams defense just isn't great. Ken Palm has them as the 218th best defense in the nation, so that's below average. They do rebound the ball relatively well, and they do a pretty good job about not fouling too much. But they don't force turnovers. Other teams shoot pretty well against them. Usually not well enough to win, but shoot pretty well. And so if the Aztecs can kind of keep up their offense and then force a lot of turnovers, I think the turnovers might be the number one thing. Forcing turnovers and trying to close out on shooters, which might be frustrating. The Aztecs, for anybody who doesn't know, the Aztecs play a style of defense called a pack line defense. And there's within each style, there's a ton of different variations, um, different small changes you can make, obviously. So I'm going to talk from a very general standpoint here. But the Aztecs play a defense called the pack line defense. And what that means is whoever has the ball you guard them closely, right? So the ball's at the top of the key. Uh, LZ Harrington is there and is guarding them closely, right? You're right up in their face. You're pressuring. The amount of pressure can vary, but you're trying to pressure the ball. Everybody else is where the important part comes in. Everybody else, when your assignment, I should say, doesn't have the ball, you take a step or two away from them towards the direction of the painted area. And what this does is it makes it very easy as a defender to help out the guy who's guarding the ball, right? If the ball handler drives past LZ Harrington, guess what? There's Reese Waters, there's Miles Bird, there's whoever is like they're one step away basically from being in a position to help, right? And the Aztecs have done this for a year, basically as long as Dutcher's been there, maybe longer. I honestly, I don't look close enough to when I watch the older Fisher games to really know. But basically, as long as Fisher's been here, that's what they've been doing. Um, Other like notable teams that do that is Virginia. Virginia plays a pack line defense when they won their national championship. That was with the pack line defense, right? So it's something that can work, right? It's something that a number of successful teams do. It's not like unique to the Aztecs. But you'll notice that I said, if you're off the ball you're kind of given your assignment a few steps there. Now, what the Aztecs do, what they work so hard at, is they work on if the ball is passed, you need to be moving. You as an individual need to be moving when the ball is in the air and not wait until the ball is caught to figure out where you need to go. And that's one of the key differences when you watch a good defensive team versus a bad defensive team is that split second, that quarter to a half of a second it takes to realize like where you need to go and where you should be and when you start moving to react to the ball. That's oftentimes all the difference is. And the Aztecs are usually pretty good at it. And so what they try to do is if a pass is made to one of those teammates, then you need to react to that and reposition yourself. And now you were guarding somebody who didn't have the ball, and now they do have the ball, and you need to close out on that very quickly and start to pressure them. And if you do it well enough, and if you have enough athleticism and length, you can get out there and still contest a shot and force a lot of misses. And generally, that's what the Aztecs do, is despite playing a pack line defense, they're able to force a lot of misses. This year has been not a great example of that. They're still like okay. Like their 3-point defense is roughly average. The past 4 years in a row, it was top 50 3-point different defense every year, ranking wise. And so they're usually pretty good at it. And this year just hasn't been quite that for any number of reasons. And so like that kind of if you're into the styles make fights things, a team that takes as many threes as Colorado State does against a team that plays a pack line could potentially spell disaster for the pack line defense. Now, if you do it well, it like you can balance things out, but you kind of are like encouraging most teams to take threes, and you're just hoping that you can contest them enough to force enough misses that it's worth it, basically. In some ways, it's very anti-analytics because the analytics say the best 3-point defense is denying the shot at all. The analytics suggest that if you let your opponent take a three, once they're taking a three, basically nothing you do affects whether or not the shot goes in. And so you should be not letting them take threes. That's what the analytics suggest. San Diego State usually is a team that kind of disproves that because they force a lot of threes, but also force a lot of misses at the same time. I shouldn't say disprove because in the grand scheme of things, it's a small sample, but it throws a little wrench into the studies there. And so ultimately, like that styles make fights things is a cause for concern. And like I said, I think the keys are going to be turnovers largely. Like besides the 3-point percentage, which is going to be huge regardless. I think the turnovers similar in that styles make fights thing, the way that Colorado State gives it up a lot and doesn't force a lot of them. If the Aztecs can get a lot, if they can be like +8 in the turnover margin, right? If they force like 20 turnovers, which is a lot, if they force 20 and only commit 12 and get out and run and score a couple easy baskets, that can help get the win. I'm not going to worry about margin or anything like that. Just get the win and let the chips fall where they may, I think. And with that, Aztec Nation, that does it for this one. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on, and we will catch you next time. Go Aztecs.
On the floor, it's Butler with 2 seconds. He's got to put it up, and he wins it with the jumper.
Mitchell's feeling it. Now he's feeling it even more. What it do, Matt Mitchell? Shackle with Flynn for the win. It's good! Oh, Malachi Flynn! Over the rim.
2 to go. Butler has to put it up for the win. Butler sticks it at the buzzer.
And a steal. Darion Trammell will coast in for the layup.
Franklin with 2 seconds forces the shot. It's good. The Aztecs advance. They've won it on the shot by the player of the year.
Miller, he put it behind his back. It's taken away by Butler. Lob it up. Lob it down. Big finish. Keyshawn Johnson.
Now we have tasted it. We're coming back. We're coming back.